I have had.
Got so much paper. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I was gonna give you this card.
Okay, I can probably be online.
This is so good.
Isn't it?
Hallelujah, Jesus.
Your haircut is really nice. Isn't it?
I did get it. It's for nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Crazy. Fun. Oh, it's so quiet.
So-
We're live. One of our commissioners just ran out 1 second, so we'll give another second. But in the meantime, I can say good morning. I just won't call it to order, but welcome. The sun always shines, it seems like, on a commissioner day. It's beautiful. Welcome to Eden Park. Going to enjoy another 70-degree day in November, and we can take those all the way till April, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, with that, I am going to call the November meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Park Commissioners to order. And we have a full complement today. All of our colleagues are here. Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Vice President Molly North, Commissioner Castellini, and Commissioner McCollum. Thank you all for being here. And we're going to start, as always, with public comments. We do have quite a few today. So Kelly is also our timekeeper. We don't want to be insulting, but to get through everybody, we'd like to keep it to 2 minutes, please. So we will start with Susan Binder-Babby.
Binder-Babby, but that's okay.
Binder-Babby, there we go.
My ancestors.
We'll stick with Susan. How's that?
Ancestors were Bender Road. It's
Okay.
Bender, Benders, and Binders. So
Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. When do I start?
When at your pleasure.
Thane Maynard told me I have a very good barred owl call. That's because I used to live on Bishop Street, right behind the area on the east side of the Brookline entrance where you're planning your recreational development of a dog park. Besides acting like you're doing this for people with disabilities when you're neglecting to bring the rest of the park's amenities into ADA compliance for accessibility, you're also putting this thing right on the barred owl's hunting grounds in that grassy valley there. That's where they live, that's where they hunt. The very presence of this dog park, the smell, the noise, the nonstop 7-day-a-week presence of canines in one concentrated area, rather than occasional dog walking on leashes like it is now. The 7-day-a-week presence and smell and maybe even lights will drive the barred owls away from where they are now and have been for God knows how many years. Why not some other place? Even the corner of Martin Luther King and Clifton Avenue would be better. When I asked Joe Gross about the dog park impact on the barred owls, he said, we don't know, something like, we don't know, we'll have to find out. The car traffic doesn't bother them. Come on, that's not how we do things. The Sierra Club, the UC Environmental Studies Department, and the Audubon Society have stated their opposition to this dog park location. Burnett Woods is a rare last sample of inner city old growth forest. Mixed mesophytic forest as defined by the famed biologist E. Lucy Braun over 100 years ago. Why isn't this park board taking seriously the advice of those who are knowledgeable? I know how this city makes decisions. You're pushing forward so aggressively with this recreational development in order to please some blue-blooded heavy hitter whose money you think you need. Please don't. Please reject their money and backpedal with integrity. Change the location. Dog parks don't drive away junkies and homeless. They'll drop their dogs off there. Don't act with the same impunity and denial as
2 minutes.
Yes,
We very much appreciate it. And
it's a precious treasure, Burnett's Woods.
right.
Well said.
Well said. Thank you very much.
Only sound we should be hearing after the.
Thank you very much. And, you know, I do have to say, we hear a lot of comments such as that. We do respect your opinion, and we are all on this committee, on this board. Thank you very much. We have listened to everybody, and we do have many experts that we are advised by, and we really appreciate your passion. Ryan Conlon. Good morning, Ryan.
Hi, guys. I'm Conlon. I'm president, founder of Honeysuckle Removal, and I'm just here to say that we need to support honeysuckle removal and make it a top priority in all of our Cincinnati parks. That's all I gotta say.
Ryan, that's a lot to say, and we really appreciate the time that you put into this. And it's a never-ending task, honeysuckle in all of our parks throughout the city, but especially in our parks. So we really appreciate all the work that all of our volunteers do. We know we've got volunteers in all of our parks that are helping to do that task, and it's no easy task. But thank you for taking the time, and thank you for taking the time today. But instead of coming here and asking us, we want to thank you. I appreciate you being here. Let us take the opportunity to thank you for the time and energy of you and all of your staff, your colleagues.
Staff, and we are going to register with the city so that we can get this started and keep moving forward.
Whatever we can do as a park board to help you, I know Jason and his staff support you, and whatever we can do, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Joe Garcia. I'm sorry, Joe Geraci. I'm sorry, Joe.
I'm used to it.
With a name like Getz, G-O-E, I get it all the time too, but I just wasn't reading properly there.
Thank you. And I'm here to thank you, not to ask for anything. Because the journey about 2 years ago started when the she-wolf was destroyed. And I'm Joe Geraci, better known as Giuseppe Geraci.
There you
Anyway,
that's what I was trying to say, really.
this is my wife Marcia, and we are both part of the Sons of Italy organization, and we're historians. And so with your all's help and with your all's permission, Jason, Jennifer, it's been a journey now for the great celebration that we had 2 Fridays ago, where we unveiled the new she-wolf. Thank you for being here. So again, these are posters that we've made, and many people have seen these and have reflected and found a relationship to them. Mrs. Castellini's husband's grandfather was quoted here in 1927 saying that we should have in one of our parks overlooking in the Ohio River, which Tiber Lake encircles our cities, we could place statues. If that's my thinking, why the she-wolf got into Eden Park in 1931. So it's because of that, and people came up and they showed pictures of in the 60s and the 50s when they were there as a child. And so it was just great. This poster board also says that 300 people were there for the original dedication. And I'm an Italian, so I'm saying we had 300 people there on November. I have to thank Jason, after thanking you and President for your nice comments. Thanks, Jason and his staff. They did a phenomenal job inviting us to the uncrating of the new statue when it came in, the moving of the twins so that those could be sent to Florence to make sure that she will fit, the way they cleaned up the area. My wife and I were there when they sat the she-wolf on Thursday, November 2nd, and we just got teary-eyed from all of that. So thank you, Jason. Please let your employees know. We thank the citizens of Greater Cincinnati. I mean, not only with the,
Just say no.
how much, please?
It's been 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. So thanks to all, but if I could, please. We need to thank Jennifer Spicer and her staff. She led the charge. She led the committees, and I think it was more than just her job. Because we found out she has an Italian heritage. And it was her passion, I think, that led us to the success. And we're honoring her Tuesday night and her family at our Sons of Italy meeting. So thanks to all again.
Thank you. It was it's another one of those things when the sun came out, it was a beautiful day. There were, I think there were 301 people there, Joe.
Easily.
Easily 300.
If I could please, a lot of my Italian brotherhood want to come back. If they said, that celebration with the cookies, the pizza is normal, we want to be back to all your.
Well, thank you, and you're here, you said you were here to thank us, but again, thank you and your organization. I know from the first we heard of an incident in Eden Park, you all stepped up and said, we want to make this right. And working with the foundation, you did what you said, and your organization should be proud that they replaced a part of history here in Cincinnati. So thank you, thank you. Okay, William Holdenack. Well, did I get that right?
Pretty close, yes, sir.
Okay.
So I'm really nervous. I've never been on television before. All jokes aside, I am nervous. Thank you for having me speak real quick. My 2 minutes. I'm Billy Hollenack. I'm involved with Cure, not-for-profit in Mount Airy, and our hope is to advocate for the community there by our business district becoming something better. So it came to our attention at Trail Fest in Mount Airy Forest, which you guys did an awesome job helping us with. So thank you so much. It was a great event. I couldn't believe all the support, like from parks out there, like little trucks running around and making stuff happen. And it was a really great event. But at Trail Fest, I spoke with Cure, and they shared that they have something on board that's like ready to rock and roll, and they're just trying to get a concrete start date. And we think at Cure ourselves that bringing people into Mount Airy Forest there could help advocate for us getting things rolling in our business district. Like it could work for everybody and be a really good thing. So I shared with our town council in Mount Airy there, and they seemed really on board. I have everybody kind of up to speed with what's going on and getting information over to them about what Cure is trying to do, or what Cora, excuse me.
All right, yes, okay.
And it's right there, area 23. Yeah, and just from Cure, I would just like to kind of support and advocate for like a concrete start date maybe on that project that's been approved to my limited understanding.
Super.
Cool. Thank you.
That is Cora has been an organization that's been great to work with. And Cora has done so much in developing Mount Airy initially for mountain biking, and have just been great partners along the way. So we have
Good to hear.
big plans with Cora, and Jason and his staff have been working tirelessly. The foundation has been involved with this project for quite a while already, and it's a priority for both our organizations. And we look forward, and it's on our radar screen. So we're going to hear a little bit later about projects that are coming, and it's one of the projects that we definitely want to move forward with.
That's great. Yeah, and as far as like what it's done over the river in Davao, kind of developing trail systems and that for economic development, other parts of the country too. Like I think it's a proven way to bring people to a town. So
Absolutely.
and I know Cora is kind of on me about, hey, don't talk about just mountain bikers. Like let's talk about the youth and the community. I mean, they're really engaged with all kinds of not-for-profits and that in the city.
Yeah.
As far as not just mountain bike culture, but the community also.
This is an example of great collaboration between the citizens and people that use that park, and with Cora and with our two organizations that are here today. So thank you very much. We also have Tom here. Tom, I'm going to butcher your name as well. Tom Wurzelbacher?
You got it.
How about that?
Thanks. So yes, my name is Tom Wurzelbacher, and I represent a couple of different not-for-profits, including Mount Airy Cure. Billy and I are good buddies on that one. And I want to echo his comments about the skills park, the bicycle skills park. And thank you for responding. And we are hoping that the start date can happen fairly soon as we get ready for the upcoming spring and summer season. I have a number of friends that I've spoken to with Cora, and they're so engaged. They're such a great group of people. I also represent the Mount Airy Forest MAFAC, Mount Airy Forest Advisory Committee. And we just had a meeting on Monday. We had our monthly meeting, and another topic that's come up, as well as feedback that we're getting from Cure, has to do with the entrance sign on Coleraine Avenue. Sadly, it got smashed by some crazy driver. Coleraine Avenue has a big problem with speeding. And it wasn't just the entrance sign, which dates back to the 1930s with the CCC, a beautiful stone and wood sign. I did speak to Joel Gross briefly before the meeting, and he assures me that it is a priority and that the design is there. And just wanted to provide a little more emphasis about how important it is, and that we have been hearing a number of comments through CURE and the organizations I'm within the community of Mount Airy about what an eyesore it is. And even if the design and installation will take a little while, if there's some way, because right now there's actually rubble that's right there, that is really, it is unsightly. If there can be some cleanup with that and maybe a temporary sign, like one of the green signs that are in most of the parks, that would be more of a temporary, inexpensive way before doing something super nice. Okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. I said my piece. And, so, and thank you for all you did with Trail Fest, and thanks for the foundation as well. You guys are.
Thank you, Tom. And I know that's on the radar screen. Unfortunately, that's the second sign, I think, in our park system that were hit by cars in the past couple months. So, okay, let's move on. We've got Sydney Barnes. Hi, Sydney.
Hi, my name
Morning.
is. Good morning. I'm the president and founder of Mount Airy West Conservation. I started as an adult volunteer at Walnut Woods with the Civic Garden Center in 21 and loved it. In 22, I began volunteering directly with the Cincinnati parks. And after seeing California Woods and realizing what was possible, I asked Greg and Drew to let me take on Airy's western half. From 21 to today, I have dedicated nearly 300 hours to Cincinnati parks. So for me, this work has been a reprieve. Where once I felt powerless against the effects of climate change, I now have an outlet to make significant, measurable, and lasting effects on the biodiversity and health of our native flora and fauna. So I've come here today with Philip, who's there, right, to introduce ourselves with the intent to develop a stronger partnership between the Parks Board and groups like us. Starting with this meeting, we'd like to provide regular updates, share and celebrate success, and escalate issues that can't be resolved at our level. So let's get started, right? So since founded in fall of 22, across 13 events and hundreds of volunteer hours, my group has removed 2.5 acres of honeysuckle, hundreds of invasive vines, countless bags of garlic mustard and Japanese steelgrass, and planted hundreds of seeds and nuts in degraded areas. In conclusion, the herbicide program that you have established is a success. Tree work is a thing of the past, and once it's treated, it's done. And the CLM team is key to our success. Greg, Drew, and Garrett train us to current best practices, help wherever possible, and inspire action. So with that, I conclude my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sydney. Greg, Drew, and Garrett are rock stars. So thank you. And Philip, you're next. Welcome back. Thank you, sir.
Started.
No, I
Good.
always we should start talking.
Good morning, I'm Philip Schaefer. I'm the president of Friends of French Park. And I'm just here to kind of follow up with Sydney and let you know what we've been up to. We started in June of 22, so last year. We are 100% conservation focused and obviously all volunteers. So far, we've done about 2,100 hours of volunteer work. We're averaging about 30 public events a year. We have a Monday team that meets about 45 times a year as well. And we have a core team of 8. I got involved because I was kind of tired of seeing the really rough trails at French Park, as well as the honeysuckle just taking over with no one doing much about it. So far, we've cleared about 9 acres of honeysuckle. For reference, the park is 275 acres. We've cleared hundreds of invasive vines that are more likely to bring down mature trees. We or the honeysuckle that we find, as well as the vines, are often about 30 years old, count the growth rings. And we've removed thousands of other invasive species, garlic mustard, Japanese silkgrass, and more. We've also worked hard to explore the park and find emerging invasive species. A lot of things are escaping from the surrounding developments in the park. We've tracked those in a GPS program called iNaturalist, and we deal with a lot of those, but also we need parks to come in and use chainsaws and other things to deal with a lot of them as well that we cannot do. So please come visit French Park sometime. Come to one of our events. I'm also happy to give you a tour sometime and show you what we've been up to. So thank you much for what you do already, and love to continue the conversation sometime. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip. Sam, is Sam out there? Sam also signed up. There you are. Welcome, Sam.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Sam Settlemeyer. I work for the Civic Garden Center. I'm our conservation program manager. I also volunteer frequently in parks. You got to hear me last month talking about the Cincinnati Conservation Stewards program that we've been working with the conservation team on developing. And we just wanted to, during that presentation, it came to our attention that oftentimes we talk so much about the other things that are happening in park, other assets that parks has, and oftentimes the forest goes unnoticed or maybe not brought up as frequently and as often as some of us would like to see. And as we also talked about, 80% or more of park property is forested property. So it's a huge asset. It could be a huge cornerstone of parks. So we simply wanted to continue to bring that to your attention, to continue to bring people like Philip and Sydney, who are absolutely incredible volunteers doing incredible work, to the forefront and make sure that they are telling you the story of what is happening out in the forest. Continue to encourage you all to consider what assets need to be invested into those forests and come out and see what's happening out in those forested spaces. So we hope that we will continue to get other CPAC members who are doing amazing, great work in our parks here and continue to provide public comment, updates of what's happening in these forested spaces. And we hope to see you guys out at some of these volunteer events here in the coming months. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sam. And thank you for the collaboration with the Civic Garden Center. Great partnership. Thank you. Okay. With that,
There's one more speaker, that white note,
oh,
actually a late speaker.
sorry. Jason Reeser.
Sorry.
I thought you were just here for a good time,
Thank you, Commissioners. On behalf of Cora, I do want to thank you and thank you for entrusting us to build trails in the park. It's been a few years since we started with the 70 acres on the hillside by 74 there at Mount Airy, all volunteer work. And we were able to clear, I just did the math on my phone, but we cleared 20 feet to each side of the trail, and almost 5 miles of trail ends up being just around 22 acres of honeysuckle and invasives. And we keep those down because we have access to the trails. But I want to, ask you again, just to reiterate, we believe that, the bike park is going to be, the top of the funnel to bring more urban youth into the park system and make people comfortable with woods and different ways to recreate, in Cincinnati parks. Looking at stats from the Outdoor Industry Association, something that they have researched is that, the biggest indicator if someone will be active in the outdoors as an adult is if they ride a bike as a kid. And so we're trying to get more people in there, and we really appreciate your willingness to push forward with the project. We have had a lot of donors. I know that Cincinnati Parks is given the lion's share of the funding for the project, the Skills Park project, to get the ADA walkway and the comfort stations and part of the trail built. But, between us and Cincinnati Parks Foundation, we've had, just probably hundreds of donors that have given funds. And, I've known Jason Barron for a long time and Crystal. Crystal Courtney. So I trust them, I know, but we have to be able to get back to our donors and you know, continue that, you know, circle of trust and produce the park, you know, the facilities they're looking for. So any news, any updates are greatly appreciated.
Great. Thank you, Jason. I know from our standpoint, and Jason is going to talk to us today. We've done a great job now since Jason's been on board of identifying the projects that we have on the table and how we're going to approach them. And that's one of the key things that Jason's brought to the park board. So we can guarantee you it's going to happen. This is a project we really want to see happen. So we
believe it'll be, you know, greatly impactful for the Mount area and the whole city.
I agree.
You're looking for item E on thing number 3 on the agenda. So stick around.
Thank you very much, Jason. Okay, so I don't think I have any more speakers. So we have a very long agenda today, so I'm going to get moving and I'm going to try today to keep us on schedule. So I don't mean to offend anybody today up here, but if I do this, we're moving along. Our first order of on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Hopefully, we've had an opportunity to read our October 19 minutes. Are there any additions, changes, corrections? If not, I'll be glad to. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, movement and section. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Kelly. We are going to go straight into our key presentation this morning on Smale Riverfront Park, Lot 23. And Jennifer, welcome back.
Should I sit?
Yeah.
All right.
Make yourself comfortable there.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here with you all today, finally. As you know, the Smale expansion project was a very important project to the late Kathy Smale Caldemeyer. And if we go to the next slide, on behalf of the Cincinnati Parks Foundation, our board of directors, our team, many of the donors are here today that gave to the original campaign and gave to the Smale expansion project. Well, not many, but a couple. We have a lot of gratitude for Kathy. And as you know, through a global pandemic, so this whole idea, you know, started to happen in 2019 when the city was willing to help complete a base level park. And Kathy's goal was to, and you know, I know she stormed the castle here many times, but her goal was to ensure that her parents' park and their legacy would be consistently beautiful east to west. And so that things that were finished in concrete as a base level would be completed in granite, would have the beautiful stone cladding that would be, again, matching all of this beautiful design. And so I was sincerely honored to work alongside of her and some of you to raise those funds. So if you go to the next slide, this was just our fundraising committee. As of April of 22, this was the group that was helping us through the pandemic. And if you go to the next slide, this was the site plan. This is the, you know, aerial view provided by THP and Kohler Design of the various assets. So as part of this fundraising campaign, we sold naming assets of various features within Lot 23. And so today we're seeking your approval to formally, you know, have these individuals named forever in the park. If you go to the next slide, there had been many iterations of a budget here. And so our first one was in 2020. And then it was updated in August of 21, where the foundation was just seeking, just tell us what this costs, because what we had originally thought we could do was extremely challenging during the pandemic. And so we decided, well, not we, but we got updated numbers from the planning team, and the goal was 5.3 million. We were excited to raise we're still raising actually. We currently have 3.25 million of private dollars. We advocated to the former mayor and city council to receive funding from the city at 1.5 million. And initially we gave 2 distributions of grants to the park board for design, totaling 800,000. So in total, it's 5.5 million. we had 5 different levels of tier of individual giving and tiers for naming. And so the first, if actually I start at tier 5 donor range, this was comprised of 16 individuals. That's on the bottom level of the rendering. 16 individuals that gave anywhere between 25,000 to 99,000. And then I'm actually going to start back at the top too. And so that tier 2 level donor gave greater than 300,000. We had 3 donors at that level. Tier 3 donors gave between 200 and 299. We had what was that, tier 3? Yep, we had 3 donors at that level. When we moved to, no, excuse me, 5. And then we moved to tier 4, that was 100 to 199, and we had 5 donors at that level. And so in addition to those that provided naming on assets, they also were to receive, naming on the wall as well. And then obviously that was comprised of lots of other donors, totaling, more than 100 individual donors too. Oh, thanks so much. I'm wearing my glasses and everything. So if you go to the next slide, this is thank you so much, Kelly. This is the tree grove, and this was gratefully through the Schmidlap Trust, as well as the Helen G. and Henry F. and Louise Tucher Dornetti Foundation of Fifth Third Bank. This is in the West Tree Grove area on a landing between the grand staircases, right along the icon of the Andrew J. Brady Music Center. The next slide includes the Chris and Trey Heekin family, who were also very generous to be a part of the beautiful playground that was the PNC Grow Up Great Heekin Adventure Playground at Smale, which is in the first phase of Smale Riverfront Park. And so this is the Ray Street Turnabout, directly alongside the Andrew J. Brady Music Center. Planters. The next slide is support. It was very generous support by Procter & Gamble, and their recognition will be along the performance lawn within the granite. In addition to their funding, they've provided a $100,000 endowment to support Black and Brown artists and businesses throughout Smale Riverfront Park as in whole. And so just this year, we did a DJ festival on the stage at the Icon Music Festival stage, just to test that concept. And we have some ideas to maybe do some extensions of our Smale Family Fun Days with this funding too next year. You go to the next slide. The Bill and Mary Beth Price Pathway. This is along the long Esplanade, overlooking Mering Way. And this is a son honoring his parents. So you'll see this is their name on the pathway and then the actual donor's name on the wall. And this will be granite inlays into the pavement. The John and Sue Toppitz Overlook Garden. This was a family that's a new donor to parks and a connection through your former interim director, John Nyer. And I will say this is a special asset because it was reimagined, and Kathy Kaldemeyer spent a lot of time working with THP and individuals from Sasaki to ensure that it looked very similar to the Women's Committee Garden down at Smale Riverfront Park. So it will. The Weiler family grand staircase, many friends in the room of the Weiler family, thank you. So this was obviously an asset that was built as part of the first phase of development for Lot 23. And so this recognition is on each level of the platforms for the staircase. A new friend and donor to new friends, yeah. A board member, Joe Evelo, and his family that actually Joe worked alongside Kathy to help us host wine tastings at the Icon once it was opened, and helped Kathy complete the fundraising, working right alongside of her. So this is the Evelo family tree grove. This is the North Tree Grove that faced the backdrop as the city, and it's right next to the temporary stage. And then we have not all of the pergolas, but just one of the pergolas that overlooks the cascading gardens, donated by an anonymous donor. Can I answer any questions?
Long battle, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe to put a cap on that, this is, so those, I mean, they're basically art pieces in the actual design of what we're going to construct. So they have to be part of the bid documents. And so THP has everything ready to go. Jen has spent the last couple months confirming all of the proper initials and proper placement of all of the names and what everybody wanted. And so now that we have that and have got with your approval, that'll go to THP for them to finalize those bid documents. And then that'll allow us to develop the bid through the city's process and get this out to bid. And so then hopefully we can sometime next year be under construction and finish this project.
Questions, comments?
I just want to say hallelujah.
Same.
I remember early 2020, as you recall, our first meeting over at the Queen City Club with you and Kathy and I, and brought in the Shannon Carter and Lee Carter. Now we're sitting here in 23 and it's a reality. So it's been, and thank you for your help too. So this is great. Any other questions? True example of partnership between the
Thank you, Jim.
Park Board and the foundation. So we have a proposal here. Part of our responsibility as commissioners is to approve naming in our parks. So we have in front of you a request for naming of the items and that we have been presented. So if there's no other questions, I will entertain a motion to. And is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, since we're all here, we can verbally say aye. Thank you.
Hot dog. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Super. Now find my notes of where we are. We are now to planning and design. Joel. Joel, I'm going to keep you on your toes here, so we'll keep moving, okay?
He's a hard lady to follow.
Yeah.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Got a few things out of the report to bring to your attention today. We at least have one action item, maybe two action items. Okay, awesome. So we'll start then with the Stowe Park refrigerant equipment easement. This has been brought to your attention a few times over the past couple months. Essentially, we're just, the Harriet Beecher Stowe House came to us and asked to be able to move their refrigerant units from the historic house to the other side of the parking lot to just in keeping with the historic facade. So we obviously jumped on that request, went out and looked at the whole site, ensured that anything electrical or vegetation was taken into account. Matt DeBona and I did a whole site walk. We've informed the easements that I believe are before you right now. Went through the whole coordinated report process and had 2 objections, which we cleared with both of those entities. And I believe we're asking this morning for you all to approve easements for the Harriet Beecher Stowe House.
This is an item that we've talked about in the past. We own the property, we don't manage that, and it's contiguous to where the Harriet Beecher Stowe House is. What we're asking today is that the board approve entering into an easement to allow for the movement of equipment as Joel has explained. Anybody have questions on this particular easement? If not, I'll entertain a motion
So
and a second.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve granting an easement. Jason is authorized, obviously, if we approve this, to finalize that easement document. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nobody. Thank you.
Thank you all. My second action item for today is one I don't believe you've heard about yet. Shortly after, this might have been the beginning of last week, we got called out to Washington Park. A gentleman was mowing and hit his mower wheel on a hole about this big. It's about 8:15 in the morning, I think. Jason and I were out there by 8:30. We looked down in this hole. I believe Casey put a rod down the hole 15 feet, put his whole hand down in the hole and pulled it back out. So what you're looking at,
it? Yeah.
nope, you're looking at the inside of the manhole right next to this hole. So as you can see in the yellow screen there up, there's a manhole, a wet well, a deep well. I think it's 25 or 30 feet by 10 foot in diameter. That is just a holding tank for stormwater that a lot of the surficial stormwater goes into. Right next to that, hole that you're looking at right now is a 15 to 18-inch storm sewer that collects all that. We think that the bottom of that storm sewer connection into this manhole has busted so that that is allowing this dirt to flow in the bottom of this. Previous picture that Kelly showed first of the inside of that manhole, Jason had a flashlight on that, and you're looking at the silt that's running down the inside. That yellow is a leaf, and right below that is a hole. And we could see that we had stuff in there that we know shouldn't be in there, should it be a closed sanitary sewer system. So upon investigation, we figured out that there was basically a 6-foot diameter at the top, maybe 10 foot at the bottom, 15-foot hole that they ran the mower across. And that is a sinkhole and a big deal. So we got 2 of our stormwater contractors to give us quotes for this. We have 2 quotes already as of last night. The lowest quote was $47,150 to come in and replace that. It's expensive in that a lot of the access is difficult to get to. That one section out of the sidewalk is all permeable pavement, and when you run an excavator across that, we're going to tear it up. We know we're going to tear it up. It's stuff that's clogged and messed up anyway, so we put a provision in this to put that back the correct way instead of having a bunch of tore up stuff over there. So we hope we don't have to do that. They're going to plate over top of that to get in and out of their access to get in here to fix it, but it's the least invasive way that we can get in. And we made provision for something that we were pretty much going to change out anyway when we had money in that. So what we're asking for today, I pushed this above $50,000 to add a little bit more contingency because we know when we get into this and unearth all of this, that there may be some issue that we can't see that wasn't accounted for. So I've added a $9,430 contingency for a total ask of $56,580 to correct this sinkhole. So I'm asking for approval for these, and it will come out of the 242000 fund, which is our contingency funding for
Capital funding.
for exactly these purposes.
Any questions for Joel on this? I assume immediately you put a fence around it or something?
Correct. Our team had a fence there within minutes of us getting there. They were running back and forth to get temporary fencing up. We coordinated with 3 CDC. They've been making sure their folks on site are monitoring that and keeping folks away from it.
Great. Any questions?
Called the aging process.
Yeah, that's relatively new park and
For a civil engineer, this is your worst, not quite your worst nightmare, but we want things to fail slow. When you have a sinkhole in the ground that's holding a hole over top of it, could certainly hurt some of our folks that are out mowing and taking care of that, or anyone that's passing by. It's super scary. So we take them very seriously when we bring you all sinkholes. This is why, because I don't want somebody to get hurt. So yeah, trying to act and fix it as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Great. So there's a proposal. Do I have a motion for approving this? And second? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Joel, this is one that obviously it's a no-brainer.
Thank you all for quick action. Out of my report, I have 3 more items I'd like to talk about in depth with you today, or just bring you major updates. But as usual, if you have any questions on any other item, I'm happy to explain anything. Number 3 that I would like to talk about today isn't an action item. It's just an update on the Ludlow facility. Chris and I have been punch listing essentially that property. Everything is going really, really well over there. As you can see, the pictures on your screen right now are a smaller portion of work done by Adlita that you approved a couple months ago. Those are the improvements to the curb and all of the accessibility there, widening out the pavement as Kelly's showing right there. That just makes it a lot easier for people to move big trucks in and out without having fear of hitting stairs, people, or the building. So we widened that out about 6 feet where Kelly's showing right now, and that'll let our big tree trucks get around that curve and down that safely. What you don't see in that picture that you will see soon is an approved fence that goes all the way around that area. We've got quotes back for that at $51,200 via Megan, the same contractor that's working on there. We had budgeted $110,000 for that. We know that some of that extra is going to be eaten up by the building that is back under bid for the second time right now. So Ludlow's going really, really well. Chris is working towards getting occupancy permits. Furniture's being ordered. Everything's going really, really well. Do you all have any questions about Ludlow or anything that's going on in that building?
Furniture's actually getting delivered first week of December. And so the move is, we're already looking into, can we get a moving truck for the day and how that works? But they're super excited to go there. As I keep hearing from the construction team that I guess police officers are showing up jealous of the state of the new building in comparison. We're currently looking at talking, or we're currently thinking about a early January or kind of mid-January after they've had some time to settle, kind of a open house / ribbon cutting, where we of course invite elected leadership of the city and the park board there to do a ribbon cutting. Then we'd have an open house for contractors and people that are involved in it, as well as the staff, to kind of let them show off their work. And was just talking to our friends at the foundation yesterday about potentially partnering with us to make sure that the food is at the right quality for our open house. So
Perfect. It looks great.
Awesome. Thank you all. It's a lot of hard work from a lot of folks. Lytle Park is the next one. It's screaming towards completion right now, as you all are aware. I think we put sod in last week and trees in over the weekend, and they're still coming in right now. So that is a picture about a week ago at this point when they were just putting the sod down. So even since that picture, 57 trees have been planted. The fountain is getting wired, everything else that needs to go around that, the remainder of the lights. You can see there are a couple pictures. That's the FC Cincinnati light program. The one before that was the Bengals for the night game.
I've got a question. Are there red lights inside there? I'm asking for a friend.
I think they have, we were told that they have 42 programs that they've already created for us. And any spectrum of any other color light that you want as a single color or a changing color. They also said if there's any special colors that we want, any combination, they'll make us anything. They'll bring it to us, download it on a stick.
That's perfect.
Right in this, pretty much anything you want.
Thank you.
Limitless, that's right.
I'm so glad you sodded it. I wanted to see it. I'm so glad it got sodded. And we're into the El Nino, so it's not going to be a terribly cold winter, and you can just keep watering that sod.
From your lips.
Yeah.
It is built at this point, the best possible scenario, because you have everything under it with the topsoil and you have the sod on top of it integrating right now. Certainly, if we would have had 2 more months to grow this, I would advocate for grass every single day and seed, but with the time of the year, the erosion that we know we're going to expect, you're going to get a better product than you do. And now it looks so much more finished and allows us to focus on the polishes that we wouldn't be able to see necessarily had we not had this picture. So I agree that it was the right call, certainly for this situation.
And Phyllis, what do the neighbors think of this?
Oh, they are. And I should mention too that the neighbors in my building planted 6,000 bulbs.
Oh, that's great.
The NTC.
Incredible.
So we're real excited.
That's great.
Lou and his team have been awesome as well. Nick Griggs, all those folks being right behind our landscapers, getting things manicured and up to snuff. It almost looks finished now. So hopefully we'll show you some even more complete pictures next month.
I tell you, Joe, you're used to big projects. This is one of the biggest ones that we've started since I've been on the board. And to see this now, kudos, and to all the staff, Jason, and whole staff.
Thank you. Thank you from my team too. And Chris McGee specifically has spent a whole lot of time making sure that the intricacies of this job are perfect. The trees, they went even 2 weeks ago, him and Garrett went down to make sure that the magnolia trees and the cherry trees we're getting are of the quality of this park. So kudos to them because they've done a great job with this. Can't say more about it. One thing you'll note is 4th Street is not done and the building across the street isn't done. That may and is going to throw a little bit of a wrench into our timeline because they've extended their permit 2 months over there, which won't allow us then to close both sides of the road at the same time. As you can see, they're painting themselves out of the park so that everything is done except for that area by the Abraham Lincoln statue and 4th Street and that bump out. But that's going to continue through the winter, probably into the spring to complete that. That's our update on Lytle Park.
We're currently, again, knock on wood, it looks like the temporary fencing could come down in early January. And then it was kind of like a soft opening. We would then rope off all of the sodded areas and all the planted areas and discourage people from getting in there as we allow those to establish themselves and kind of have the winter to rest, the roots to kind of get stuck in. Get on sod too early, you can tear it right up. But then we are going to leave an area open at the northwest corner for pets. All the dog owners and Phyllis's building and others in the area are looking forward, and their pets are looking forward to having some space to get back to. And then we're currently planning for a full opening and kind of the grand hurrah opening sometime in late March, whenever the weather turns. We can turn the fountain on and leave it on for the rest of the year. So we'll kind of play that by ear as hopefully it is indeed a mild winter and we can start to look at warmer days, and then we'll figure that out. So the current opening.
You all have any more questions on Lytle? All right, I believe the last one I want to cover today is an update, even to the update you have on the Sinton Garage renovation. So I show you, the plans have not changed since what you're seeing right now, other than this update was given on October 18th, shows the interior of the Sinton. You see about a 3,200 square foot interior office space, which takes the place of Dave's essentially shipping container that he's working out of now. So it actually dedicates some, a block of that whole building to dedicated ventilation office space that's going to be used and conditioned correctly all the time. Other huge thing that's happening in this building is we're setting up 4 ventilation zones for the first time. We know that because of the Reading Road sale, that the mechanics are coming over here. That significant, historically, we have not done a good job about ventilating that building to where if they're working on machines, those fumes get into places where people are working. And we're making a big change to fix that in this by pulling air from that and shooting it straight outside without it ever interacting with the other zones. Very similarly, the warehouse to the bottom right corner, that huge space right there, that has its own ventilation that won't interfere with the offices. The back space, the top right corner of your screen there is the mechanic space that we're talking about. So those are the 4 major zones of that building. We are pretty much at a really good schematic design phase with this to where we have even refined numbers from what you're showing. I put together the little table that appears in your packet, shows 4 major things that we want to do on this site. One includes everything that you're looking at in this building, which is a brand new roof. The exterior wall system gets some actual insulation. It is a warehouse, and now we're turning it into a space that people are going to be able to use. So insulating that building is important. Fixing all the old glass and things that don't do what we need them to do from a reflectivity standpoint anymore. All of that is included in this. Replacing all of the exterior doors and the complete roof replacement, not photo helix, those, not PVs and solar. Just replacing the roof is included in this. So we're essentially looking at 2A through 2D in that table that I sent you there. That encompasses the building renovation package, we'll call it. Since that October 18th update that you're seeing there, we got last night an update from this. So where I share this as 2.55 million to include all of that stuff. There were 2 other pieces that weren't included in that base bid. One of them, if you look back at one of the plans, Kelly, there's a covered garage to the very right there, the jut out there. That wasn't included in the original design to cover that and make that a conditioned space. It is, and they updated. That adds a $250,000 line item to this. And additionally, since this, we've vetted the mechanics area a whole lot more and added some storage above that. So they have 2 levels of storage in an area that doubles their capacity and space. That work added about $200,000. So with a 20% contingency, full building package as of yesterday is running at about, oh my goodness, sorry, $2.9 million. And that includes a contingency just as I had done in the previous, instead of that 2.55 million. So that's where we essentially sit today with really good estimates and knowing where we are to do that. How that equates in a square footage calculation, it's about $195 a square foot to redo the building inside and out. That is not putting the PVs. No, ma'am. It's actually a pretty good deal. That doesn't include another big change from the October 18th to the November 15th is the new PV system. In the original one that I show, I had a $1 million line item in there. We've received update last night and in reusing and reconfiguring some of the things we had and adding a whole bunch more, we can still do that whole system for 400,000 instead of $1 million. So we came down that much on the PV system, and some of that may actually be reimbursed at a certain percent based on some grants and things we're doing with other departments in the city. So basically, this is a discussion and just showing you where we are with the 4 major components of this. 2 other things I haven't mentioned, and I'm sorry to go out of order. The site improvements, that would include dedicated mulch spaces. We've shown you all well beyond the building now, cleaning up that whole area, putting in pavement, a loop so that we can get around. All of that would be included under the site package. I share that at $630,000. They came back last night pretty much at the same number. They have 525. They had 530 as you saw in the first. So essentially they just didn't add that contingency in there. Those numbers really didn't change. And neither did the pre-engineered metal building. That is essentially a mirror of the Taj Mahal, as we call it, the construction building just to the I don't even know what direction that is.
Straight up there, maybe. east.
Just to the south of the main facility there. This mirrors that and gives those construction folks potentially another whole storage area. It allows us some flexibility in how we move and activate this building, but all of those components are up for discussion. And we just wanted to put those in front of you this morning to show you where we are with the complete site package at Sinton right now. So Jason, anything else I need to add to that?
Perfect.
So do you all have any questions about that?
And where do we plan the funding for this will come out of where?
We're going to get to that in a couple minutes.
Hold that thought.
We don't fully know yet, but
Okay.
this is an effort to, as with all things, here's what we got, right? And so here's where we're at, which is we've got a plan. We visited Sinton on our tour. I think you guys all saw the conditions that our employees are working in and have been for decades. And now we've got pretty good understanding of what the pricing is with the architects. And now it's up to us as staff to bring a recommendation to you, to the board, and kind of get your temperature on what that path is forward.
So Joe, with all these updates that you gave us, if we're looking at the 3.64 that you had originally, what's your estimate? Where do we stand today?
It's essentially the same number. If you count the PVs, dropping by 400,000, 500,000 and the building going up 400,000 or 500,000. It's about the same.
Gotcha.
The critical path for us is to get our folks in a good situation. So we broke this out a little bit differently than the estimate we received from our consultant, just to emphasize the importance of doing that renovation to the building all at one time. The inside, outside roof, not necessarily the PVs if we needed to stretch the money into another year, but certainly we want to include everything that's in that building envelope, the doors, the roof, the exterior and the interior office, all of that stuff in one time, just so we're not piecemealing 3 mobilizations across 3 different contracts, because we know how that's going to turn out. And this is trying to streamline that. So we're trying to keep all that together and get approval for at least that piece of it, depending on how the funding is going to go.
So you'll be coming back to us on this, is that?
We're just going to discuss it in a little more detail when we get to our capital budget request for next year.
Okay.
I think that's all I have on Sinton until, as the director mentioned, we talk about how to pay for it. Do you all have any more questions on Sinton or why we're doing the things the way we're doing them here? Are there any other topics? Those were the main ones I wanted to bring to your attention. Are there any others that you have questions on or wanted to follow up on? All right, I will shut up then. Thank you very much.
Joe, thank you.
Joe, great work.
As always.
Yes, as always. Okay, we'll move Jason to HR update.
So Derek Gentry is down at the Civil Service Commission meeting, which they always schedule during our meetings. So I'm going to provide the report for him. We're really starting to see the effects of his team being staffed up. We added a staff member over the summer and then another staff member later in the summer. And his teams just really improved their productivity. And you can see it in the hiring. We were able to promote Stephen Crooms to be our new district crew leader out of Eden Park, out of the Sinton office. So he now has moved up from one of the service crew leaders there to a district crew leader. We also appointed a new carpenter, Kyle Pickens. Have 4 new laborers. We've got a couple of florists that have transferred. And then some of the positions we've been monitoring a bit, the grant writer position closes December 7th. So we've been getting a lot of applications for that. Finance division manager position has been posted. And I guess I should take a moment officially to note that our dear friend and valuable colleague has been my security blanket over my first 15 months here at Parks. But Mr. Craig Sherman has accepted a position at Children's Hospital to move back to his true calling, we'll say, or the industry that he's been in for a long time and managing pharmacies. And we're really excited for him and proud of him, but he will be sorely missed. So we instantly got that post up and approved and posted. And we've been getting some decent applications already for that. And Rocky's team has been promoting it, and we'll get that message out there more. So if anybody listening or anybody in the room knows anybody that are good CFOs, they've got some big shoes to fill, but we're looking to do some recruiting.
When does that posting close?
That posting doesn't close until December 4th.
December
4th. And we can always extend it as well, but.
So it's been a while since we've had a division manager. How will we be involved in that process?
That's a great question. So I've already talked to the finance department and the budget department about if they can lend some help with the interview panel. I know Jim was on the last interview panel that identified Craig, but I would be more than thrilled to have the board involved as well.
We hired Joel's position and I believe we did interview the final candidates.
That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, this is an area where I taught myself some bookkeeping at Red Bike, but this is not my area of expertise. And so I'm looking for all the help we can get as we narrow that field down and look at the final top candidates.
Is that what your expectations on how that will work?
Yeah, Jason and I have talked, we do want board involvement with this, and I've offered any time that they need, and would welcome anybody else that would like to be part of that process to narrow down the field. Obviously, this group has to approve the hiring of whomever we get. So you can give us feedback, but we can either bring two, like we did when we looked at Joel's position, and do it that way.
I think that's great. I think you'll know how many final candidates you. Hopefully it's at least two.
Yeah.
But if it's three, then that's what we'll take on.
So we'll plan accordingly, and we would go into an executive session, have perhaps even a special meeting for that. We can do it by Zoom as well. But we can work with the details, but obviously it's a key position for us.
Absolutely.
And
But for the record, there was only one you.
since we've taken the brief interlude here, Craig, I just want to thank you for all that you've done with Parks since you've come on board. You came in and helped us be more transparent in the role that you're in, and have helped and provided a lot of support for the various directors along the way since you've been on board here. And we thank you for all your work and wish you well.
You're welcome, and you beat me to the punch there. I was gonna give a little speech there during mine.
Hold that thought, and we'll come back to you because I don't want to gloss over it, but we'll go back to Joel. Chase.
So just some great stuff. Things moving along, for the executive assistant position for the director's office, for the project manager, that, we got over 250 applications for that. So that's taken a little longer to weed through, and Derek's team has done a great job of narrowing that down for us. Jenny and I have a plan to kind of do some initial Zoom interviews with folks and then bring in those finalists once we get the temperature of them, to interview those. So hopefully that'll be something we'll be appointing in December as well. I believe just yesterday, we posted a project manager position for Joel's shop. This is another administrative specialist. We waited for so long for the union and the HR department to finalize those classifications, but we posted that position yesterday. This will bring somebody in that doesn't necessarily have to be an engineer or an architect, but will be able to manage contracts, do community engagement, and help kind of get some community feedback on smaller and larger projects, and then help Joel's team manage those projects out in the community. And then lastly, the Arbor Series stuff is finally going through. We've got some interviews for the lead arborist and for the tree maintenance crew workers. So those positions have been vacant for a while and made us rely on a lot of contractual services. The tree maintenance crew workers, we actually had, I think it was 7 and 5 passed the written test, and then those 5 are now going to do the practicum, which is to harness up and actually climb trees and show their rope skills and show their true tree maintenance skills. And so that's moving to the next stage. And then we're just getting ready to post a florist test. And so anybody that's listening that's has a horticultural background, getting ready to post a florist test, and then folks will take that test and it will develop a list that will be able to start selecting additional florists. I think we have 3 vacancies, 3 or 4 florist vacancies that we're going to fill pretty soon. So, but we have to work with central HR to develop that test, but things are moving forward on all levels. We've just got a lot of stuff moving forward, which is really great.
Super. Any other HR questions? Sounds like we're making progress, so I appreciate that.
It really is. Feels like we're staffing up.
Jason,
the newest face anymore.
Jason, I'm not sure where we fit this in, but there were a couple things related to CRC that.
Yeah. Let's
want to go over that.
Of course. We can flip back through there. So
okay.
This is an interesting one. So as you all know, we own like 5,000 acres of property, and we only manage a portion of that. And then other organizations such as the zoo or the Harriet Beecher Stowe House or our friends at the Recreation Commission manage the rest of it. For the property that we own, when we do a project, we kind of get your approval and take your temperature and we start working on it and bring you all the final approvals. But for CRC, if they want to make a change to one of their properties, they don't want to spend a bunch of time planning it and thinking about it if ultimately the park board is like, we don't want to do that. We're not interested. So there's this kind of weird initial step of us needing to kind of give the go ahead that, yes, this is an improvement we would consider and we are fine with you pursuing before they start to spend a bunch of money in design. So if you will flip to page 42 in your packet. As we consider with our friends at the foundation making renovations to the skating rink, I know that when our friend Morgan was here, a lot of people, and I do it myself, we're interchanging skating rink and skate park, but they are two very different things. One of them is for people with my level of skill, which is a flat surface to go around in a circle, and one is for people with much bigger level of skills to do kind of adventurous stuff in a skate rink. They went to city council through the last budget process and got $500,000 designated to the recreation department to develop a skate park. And the plan is to develop that skate park in the Camp Washington Recreation Complex. This hasn't been a rec center in a while.
Right.
And I believe it used to have a pool as well, which I think you can see on there, but it hasn't been a pool in a while. And in fact, the building is currently leased by the police department as one of their kind of neighborhood stations. But as you can see on page 42 and 43, this is kind of the layout of the land. And then on page 43 is kind of the proposed site of where the skate park will go into. At a staff level, we're super excited about this for the community, and we're super excited to help partner with our folks at our partners at the Recreation Commission to do whatever we can do to help, get them the approvals they need for this. So it would be our recommendation that we would approve them moving forward with this change in use to the park by adding a really cool amenity to it.
And as Jason said, this is very early on. The park, the CRC has not approved the design yet, but this is what is being proposed. But as he said before, we spend a whole lot of time and energy. Since we own the property, we have to say, go for it if you're interested. So I think what we're doing today is just offering, if we are okay with CRC moving forward with developing this skate park.
I have a question about this.
Yep.
And this is not in, I guess, our realm, but how does CRC go about selecting a location for a skate park? Here's why I ask. I think this is gonna be wildly popular. I see skate parks in other cities. They're full all the time. They're a major amenity in urban areas. And I guess my question is this really the right location for this? It feels kind of tucked away. And rec center, it used to be rec center that's inactive with parking that's for the police.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. It's not one I have a great answer to other than to speculate, which I feel would be a little irresponsible of me. So I know that it's as far as when I became aware of it, Evan, Evan's the name I remember, who's one of the big promoters of skate parks. He's spoken here since I've been the parks director. Joel and I have definitely talked about some different ideas of where we could put a skate park, where we could include it in some future plans. We don't have a great location in mind just yet. And then as I was hearing from Evan, he said that he was already talking to the Cincinnati Recreation Commission and that they had kind of identified this Camp Washington site as one of the sites that was viable for it. So it kind of came to me almost as that it's already there. So I couldn't speak specifically to how they developed this site.
I'd really like to hear more on that because there are a number of communities in the city, I think, that have advocated for skate parks in their communities. And if they've got $500,000 for a skate park, I want to feel some confidence that location and the impact of this amenity has been vetted. I'm sure it has, but I'd like to hear more.
I can definitely get that
before I feel good about saying this sounds great. It does sound great, by the way. I'm thrilled about it. My only question would be location, and is it big enough? Because as I say, I've seen these skate parks in other places and they are very, very popular.
Let's do this. Since you have a voice on the CRC, we have not gone into that. So I can bring that discussion up I think this is going to be on our agenda because of the way the calendar worked. Usually CRC's before parks, but because of the calendar, next Tuesday is a CRC board meeting that we'll talk about this. We don't have to approve this today. So I would propose we just go ahead and table this today. And then we can get more information. And I can ask those questions specifically. How did we land on this spot? I know it's been something that, to your point, I don't know if it's called Skate Cincinnati or Cincinnati Skate or something like that, but Evan is the head of that. He's been working with CRC, but I don't know if other sites had been considered, but.
I think this is very exciting. And, you know, for that matter, I'd love to hear the foundation's thoughts on this too. I know you've been in the game for a long time, and I'm sure have had many discussions about skate parks over the years, not just skate rinks. And just your thoughts on location and the significance of this amenity. I don't want to miss a great opportunity. $500,000 is something, but even if it could be augmented to make this really something special for the city, it's just, I think it's really worth talking about.
Excuse my naivete, but we are talking about skateboarding,
Yeah.
not roller skating.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
That's
just want to be
right.
sure I understand.
Well, that's
This
an
just doesn't
excellent.
look big enough to me.
That was my thinking as well. But it is difficult to tell really what the scale of this is, and
Yeah.
It's a really big field if you're out there. Yeah.
This is the whole
it's
that's
pretty
a
big,
full,
but it looks like it's
court
about 3
basketball.
times the size of that pool.
So-
Which tells me
and this is a
doesn't-
full
how
pool.
big that pool is.
Yeah.
Put it in perspective of that.
But
Yeah.
I'm watching this stuff on television.
They're huge.
Huge
Yeah.
things that you see with the cove, you know, when they run up. So
Yeah.
150 feet long. It's not small. And then
Is that what it
inside the side,
is?
It's probably just looking at 60 feet at the widest point. We've talked to Evan a little bit about that and other sites that we've been exploring, like Jason said. They like them compact in a lot of situations. So the right mix of that, and I didn't have a whole lot to do with the layout of this one, but I believe that that's sufficient in size. If they get too big, it kind of gets weird too. So Evan has had some very specific thoughts on those. I haven't, like I said, I've vetted this one only in that it doesn't affect any of our utilities or any of the other stuff in the ground. But we will certainly have those conversations about what is the optimum size for these things. That was pretty big, I think.
My question too is, how involved are we with this group as well? Because like I visited, when I was in LA at Santa Monica Beach, skate park there, and I mean, it's super crowded. But one question I asked some of the regulars was like, you know, how does the safety work here, security, things like that? And they said there's actually the regulars who are there all the time kind of help police. It's like that community. So they kind of thwart any like violence or any issues. Because for me, with what's going on here in the city, this is great, but I'm honestly very concerned too about a lot of that stuff. So I would love to learn more how involved we are with them and just hearing their voice as well to see like what are some things you all are thinking about too to make sure this is a safe space for the community.
That's a great point. And to Molly, one of your other comments, parking, you know, where is the plan for parking? So I'll take all of these comments and we'll table this for now. And we can always come back once CRC lands on their whole plan.
Great.
The one more cool thing about this one, sorry to interrupt with that, it's utilizing a existing detention area. So essentially that's just a depressed area in the ground where most of that runoff from a storm system goes down into. So I think it's a really cool idea in this location, maybe not like from a social standpoint, I don't know the answer to that, but just from a geological standpoint and a topographic standpoint, it's making 2 uses of something. Because that thing can flood for the most part, and who cares? It'll still drain itself out the same way it would as if it was retaining water. So it's kind of a cool use for something other than just a grassy retention area. If you're gonna use that as a storm.
Joel, I just wanna ask you that.
Okay.
So if that pool is a 25-meter pool, which it probably is, then the skate park is 75 meters. So
75 meters, which is 225 feet.
yeah, that's big. It's big.
The only reason, I looked at the basketball court and know that it's like 50 by 70 or 50 by 65 in that situation. That's how I did it. So 225 by 50-ish is the footprint of that. It's fairly big.
So it's 3/4 the length of a football field. I know you know your football. Okay, well, hopefully that's valuable, not, no plan to slow anything down. I'm super excited about it, but this is a bit significant enough that it's worth
Absolutely.
dialogue. Which
That's
I'd
great.
appreciate.
So next up is another one, the Stantonville Triangle. This is just a little bit north of here on Reading Road, right where it splits with Burnett. There are 7 tennis courts there. This is another space that's managed by CRC. They've got a lot of folks playing tennis all summer long, but it has really bad parking and really bad parking options for there. And so what they see is a lot of people jumping the curb and parking in the space where they are proposing putting this parking lot. This isn't a very big parking lot. It's only about it looks like 12 spaces and a handicap space. Right, I'm sorry, 9 spaces in a handicap space, but it will allow some of that congestion and will help support that a little bit. It'll be just south of the tennis courts there. What I've been told is it's in size, it's a little bit like the parking lot that's at Inwood, which again isn't perfect, but you also don't want to have a giant parking lot. So it's kind of like they're trying to right size the space in there to relieve some of that pressure while being respectful and trying to keep as much of that open space as possible. So again, early days in their planning, but if we are interested in a parking lot there, they don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it. So, but again, we've looked at it as a team and think that this would be probably a pretty good addition there to support that. That's a very busy intersection. All 3 of those roads get a ton of traffic. I've learned a lot about it because just north of William Howard Taft is Joel's shop at Hout Gardens, and I run up there to see them all the time. And there's always tons of traffic there as people are getting off the highway or they're heading up to the hospitals or over to the university. So the more we can get people from crossing the street, probably the better.
Yeah, it's dangerous to play tennis there because you have to deal with parking your car and getting to the court. I think it's great.
Any other concerns about this? Why don't we'll take these up at the same time.
Okay, no problem.
I'll take it is unless there's objections, I'll let the CRC know that there was no initial objections.
Again, we just want to get as much information to you guys as possible, let you guys kind of consider it, ask these questions, and then
Perfect. Thank you, Director.
maybe, Mr. President, if we would do the 2 last action items, which are the 2 kind of acceptance of contributions from the foundation, and then we can get to the discussion about some of the broader planning stuff.
Hello, Commissioner. The first action item is for Crone Conservatory. This is a grant to the Parks Foundation for support for the Crone Conservatory Butterfly Show. The originator of this grant foundation or donor of this grant is Scherzinger. And we're asking for you to accept a $23,750.
Any questions? I
should say this is page 64.
Page 64.
Kelly's done a great job of putting the page numbers in.
Thank you, Kelly.
Huge. To help us all navigate around as we flip around these packets.
I had the opportunity at the Hats Off Luncheon to sit with the Scherzinger family. They just love parks, you know. Excellent, excellent. And the fact that they have for, how many years? 75 years? 30+ years. They have been sponsors for things at Crone Conservatory. So any questions on this one especially, specifically? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve. And second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With that, thanks to the foundation, and please let the Scherzinger know we really appreciate their ongoing love for parks, especially Crone. Craig, back to you.
Next up is our quarterly in-kind contributions from the Parks Foundation. The third quarter, we received $23,320.12 in in-kind donation. We're asking for the commissioners to approve the in-kind.
To point out in this that you see that a lot of that's artwork. This is the machinations of how we got the wolf to Italy, got the wolf back, got the wolf installed, cleaned the plinth. I should also point out that there are a couple of payments to Baron identification projects. That is a 1R Baron, no relation.
I was going to take that up later with you. No. Any questions on this?
Nope.
May I entertain a motion then? Second,
Second,
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye, thank you.
Great, thank you. And I do want to take this time to thank everybody, the commissioners, for the opportunity to work for the Parks Foundation. The job has been immensely rewarding to me and developing great relationships with the staff, outside stakeholders and commissioners. I do want to thank you again. And I also want you to be aware that I'm not going away forever, obviously. I'm going to be there to support you. So whomever is selected, or if there's needs, please reach out to me. There's a lot to learn, and I'm going to be there to support the parks on whomever you guys bring on. And in the meantime, if there's any questions, okay?
Craig, is your cell phone number going to remain the same?
Well, for my personal, yes. Parks, the city cell phone, it will stay here.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure everybody has my personal number. Yep, and I'm just gonna be right down the road.
Well, again,
Congratulations.
congratulations and thank you for all your hard work. And for from the investment committee as well, all that you've done for that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I do have the notes complete last meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig.
All right. Well, next up is the discussion of the capital budget request and the 3-year forecast. This is in keeping with what we were talking about earlier with the various projects with we pass these around, everybody. With the various projects for CRC, we're trying to get information to you guys earlier to give you time to consider it. The budget process has a ton of detail to it and comes at us quickly every year. But there's also just a lot of processes. And so oftentimes this capital budget request that we're talking about right now is actually in support of the budget that we passed June 30th, right? But the capital budget process starts very early. That's some of the stuff they can just kind of set in stone, and then it'll move forward. The other thing about this particular capital budget request is that, so the city passes a 2-year budget, and then in the interim year, they do a budget update. So the second year is kind of a on paper year. And then, so what we're really doing annual budgeting. So last year, and you'll see on page 2 of, there's two spreadsheets of just capital budget stuff.
Which one are you looking at?
Yeah, so the capital budget request is the legal size piece of paper. Last year, and then the bigger kind of poster paper, that is the budget exemptions. So there's 2 parts of the capital budget request. But like I said, these are due in December. And so last year we approved this in December. Yep, there's 2 of them that are different, slightly different. They should be in your packet underneath your folder, maybe, Molly.
Oh, I should have this.
Yeah, you have both those, yeah.
Oh.
So
It should be underneath.
I apologize.
Here,
I'm sitting and see. if
this is
people-
1 page, right?
Oh,
One page and then a second. No, there's 2. There's actually 2.
There's 2, okay.
There we go. So anyways, so we approve the capital budget for 2 years and then we do a budget update, right? And so once they're approved, they go into things and we can still move the money around from that. That's just us kind of projecting. We will get about $2.7 million a year. So the other thing that's interesting about this one is a lot of things changed with the sale of the railroad. And so these are the dollars that could be augmented as our general infrastructure and rehabilitation dollars every year as part of the budget. So we're still proceeding as though everything's normal for next year, but we don't know. This could change yet again before the final budget's passed. We'll see. So on the top page, you'll see, and what's up right now is the proposed 2025 update and a little bit of update of what we're thinking about the 2024 request. And so the second page is what we approved for fiscal year 24 and 25 last December. And you can see we split it amongst, we were still thinking about building the Deal Road headquarters and the Ludlow building. It's finished now. We had some money set aside for the Senton renovations. We had a little bit of money set aside for the initial planning for the West Operations Center.
Jason, which page are you on? The approved one?
The approved one. So if we start with the approved one, I apologize.
Yeah. Okay.
My first time trying to do this as a draft to get you guys
slow down
more information. I will indeed. So if we look at the approved one, we'll see what we approved last year, right? Which was
2.7 and
2.7 and 2.7. We ended up getting about 2.6 in the first year, but that's just some rounding. So we had the project in Washington Park for $250,000 that you guys approved last month. We had the Ludlow headquarters / Deal Road. We were going to set aside $750,000 to support that, in addition to the project that we did or completing now. We had money set aside for the Sinton renovation. We had some money set aside for the Western Operations Headquarters to begin the initial planning for that. And then we had about $150,000 for contingency, and then of course the payroll for Joel's staff. And then projected out, we looked at the following year, which is what we're about to approve. And we proceeded down all of those same pathways. We had additional dollars for Washington Park. We had some more money for the Sinton Operations Center, more money for the West Regional Operations Center. And then we had about $150,000 in contingency. And then of course the payroll. So that's what we approved last year. So this year, if we switch to the second page, we've got kind of an update of what we're projecting out and what we're thinking about using those dollars. So last year, the money we set aside, we didn't necessarily use any of those dollars last year because those are projects that are still coming down the pike. So we just did the Washington Park project. We approved that. But for Deal Road, we ended up not doing Deal Road. We've instead moved that to Warder Nursery, where we're still working out what that final condition will be. So we want to leave those dollars set aside for Deal Road or for what is now Warder Nursery. The Sinton building, however, what we're proposing is to advance the money that was going to be in the Western Operations planning phase and move that towards the Sinton building. So that would be $900,000 of previously approved money that could go towards Sinton. And then if you look at what we're proposing for this year, and you can see how it's changed a little bit of what we were considering last year, we're moving all of the West operations dollars into the Sinton building, right?
So what say?
Into Sinton, the Sinton building over here.
Gotcha.
And then in addition, instead of $150,000 for park contingencies, a year and a half in, I think we do need to set aside a pretty sizable amount of money for things like the sinkhole or just simple projects like we need to do a water line. We need to do some asphalt repair. You know, all of the projects that we approve every month at $50,000 and $75,000 clips, we need to have a pretty sizable reserve for that. We still do have a sizable reserve in the past that we're still spending down from some previous years that Joel and his team have done. But we also want to make sure, because these dollars don't come in until July 1 of next year, we want to make sure we always have plenty of contingency for that. And I think the sinkhole kind of showed the importance of that. So all told, that would bring us to about 2.1 million in these infrastructure and rehabilitation dollars for the Sinton facility. And as you remember from what Joel said, that's about a $3.5 million project before we do, and that includes the site conditions, before we do the solar panels. So that's kind of where we're thinking. Again, we're not looking for approval today. We're just giving you a view into where our brain's at and give you guys time to mull that over. Then we would move to the second page, which is the capital budget process has two steps. Step one is what would you do with your INR dollars, your infrastructure and rehabilitation dollars? And then step two is what are your budget exemptions? These are your this is a capital project that we need some additional funding for. We've got funding for several projects with this just over the year and a half I've been here. We got funding for Inwood Park. We got funding for the Smale Lot 23 improvements. That was before me, but that 1.5 million was a budget exemption. We got some money last year for MLK Park and for the Smale River's Edge project. We got about 1.25 million. So generally we will get one or two of these projects funded. And as you see, we've moved the Sinton facility up to be our #1 project that we would need an exemption for. And if they funded us at that 1.5 million, that would give us the 3.5 million that we need in order to move forward with that Sinton project. So that's currently kind of how we're playing that out in our heads.
And is it clear when you talk about requesting 1.5 million, that's on top of money we have already allocated to this project?
Okay. And then that's communication that we're having with the city manager's office as they make the decisions and with the budget office through this project.
Because I don't see anywhere on here.
So if you look at
$3-point-something million
fifth column, so this is also not our spreadsheet. This is we've hidden some columns, but this is a spreadsheet that we fill out and upload into their system. So that they don't have a column for that. But if you look under, I think it's the 6th one over, description of shovel readiness, it says in there's a funding gap of 1.5 million that has forced us to postpone this.
Okay.
And then it does say.
If these sheets right here, and you add up the 2 years of proposed spending percent, and it adds up to 2,150,000. So that's what's been approved in the capital budget.
Mhm.
So that's where that shortfall comes from.
Correct.
Because you've determined it's a $3.5 million
Mhm.
project.
Gotcha.
Yep,
So you can't move forward with it until you identify this.
the additional funding,
I
correct.
see.
And then we made, yep. And then we made our second exemption, as you move down this bigger spreadsheet, the solar panels for that, which we just found out were much cheaper than we thought. But we thought it was 900,000. Our strategy,
One payback if it's 900,000.
correct. Indeed it is. We can get, like Joel said, we think we can get about 40% of that back through the various recovery acts that have been passed. It's the same funding we're using to, as we put together the plan for biochar, we're able to, for these energy efficiency programs, it's guaranteed 30% tax credit back, which is direct pay for governments and nonprofits. And then there's 10% if it is in a Justice 40 community, which we believe Walnut Hills is, which is where Senton sits. And then it's another 10% if they're manufactured in America, which we'll have to wait and find out what the actual vendor is. But so we might be able to get at least 30% back of that. And the city's setting up a revolving loan fund that can pay for some of those projects. So then they would actually be part of the capital stack, because they would give us that from the fund, that 40%, and then that money would go directly back to the fund when it was done. They're still working out the details. But our hope is that as the budget office and council look at this, they see this as kind of a package deal, but we still want to split it up to allow them to kind of put the added bonus of when we can add the solar panels in.
So if it's less than $900,000.
We will be updating this, but
Okay.
So Jason, do I understand the reason the Mount Airy operation
Mhm.
has been pushed later?
Correct.
And therefore the money isn't necessary to be in the budget now?
Well, it's necessary and needed, but a couple of things have happened. One is that me, Joel, and Chris were all still newbies last year. And so we've got another year under our fingernails of dirt and grime and knowledge. And some of these things have just started to move forward. So we were kind of doing a phased approach, thinking that it was going to take a while to fundraise for any of these. So we needed to keep that money moving forward. I think that when the Senton plans came back at the level they did, and with the money they did, we realized that that's something that we can move forward quickly on if we are strategic about it. In addition, and some of it's just taking in trying to listen to you all as we spend time with you. But on our various tours of the Senton facility, I think it was pretty clear that the Board of Commissioners was interested in advancing that. And so we were like, well, this feels like something that folks are interested in and that is a priority for the board. So we want to start to put together a plan for that. And again, we're not asking for approval today. This is how this process works. We want to get this to you early, let the public see it early and know what we're thinking and kind of what our planning is around it. And then we'll still approve this at the December meeting, but we'll have time to answer the questions you have, to move things around or come up with different strategies. And then after we go through the Senton, as you kind of, I'm not gonna go through them project by project unless you want me to, but we've got an additional 12 projects, which I believe we've talked about at various stages, and they're projects that kind of are on our radar. We're asked to update this every 3 or 4 months, and we jiggle them around a little bit, and we kind of are like, well, maybe this one, or maybe this one's kind of moving, or we've been thinking about this, or we got some new information. I think we all got a lot of different railroad advertising in the mail, and they all seem to have different lists of priorities for the city. But I think they were all derived from these kind of lists that we update for the city as it uses its kind of continuous planning. So we have to enter it into planning department's kind of Cincinnati master plan. And so we have to update some projects for them. We have to enter it into some different systems for the Green Cincinnati plan to see how these fit into and then we have to enter it into obviously the capital budget planning system.
So Jason, a quick question on number 10, why, if redoing water is necessary for biochar, biochar is one of our leading projects, why would this be more critical?
So it is critical, but that is for kind of the broader water, kind of the greenhouse restoration, some of the other things that we're starting to do some planning around. And again, we can certainly move it up. We're working on a separate plan for water nursery will end up being a several phased plan. Biochar will be phase 1. Well, phase 1 is getting our green space team out there. The trailer from Crone has been moved out there. They're working right now to get all the electrical connections there and get them settled out there. We actually found out that there was no asbestos in that back stable building. And so we are already moving forward with some plans to use that for storage. And so I just found out yesterday that they're getting a new kind of bigger piece of equipment that they're going to be able to use to load mulch and stuff from piles up into their various pickup trucks to take out to the various installations they have throughout the community. And we're gonna be able to store it in that back building along with a lot of their supplies and stuff. So phase one is getting green space settled. Phase two is getting biochar settled. And as we shift over to the 3-year forecast, we'll get to talk about, I'll show you where that project fits in. And then phase 3, 4, and whatever's next is to kind of finish figuring out how can we really turn this nursery into something that is dissipating our reliance on contract services and allowing us to kind of control our own destiny, do more flower growth ourselves, and turn it into more of a living lab that we can bring the community in, we can bring volunteers into. But those plans are in their beginning stages. But that stuff we were talking about kind of as we toured that and starting to vision what could this be.
A little bit on that, as Jason said, the asbestos testing that we did on all the buildings came back.
A lot to understand.
We have that space available now to use it. One little piece that we're working through right now is the same idea with structural integrity. So we have a structural analysis that we've already enacted here. That they're going to go through the same situation with all these buildings and make sure they're structurally sound and provide recommendation with what we need to do to update that. That will play into what Jason was saying, the overall build out of order and knowing what those capabilities can be utilized in the structures that we already have in place. So that's why it's kind of I'll approach here, as you said, green space is immediate. We're already working to get them out there. Everything is good to go on that. Biochar is in full design at this point, and then order is happening behind that. What do we do to fix the steam pipes? How do we make the site better? How do we start regrowing our own trees? All that same kind of stuff is phase 3, the order campus, what we call it.
The other thing I would say about this top 12 priority list is that the likelihood of us getting funding past about 3 or 4 is not very strong. And so for us, Sinton becomes our number 1 priority because we're this close to being able to do that. McAvoy Park has been in the top 3 or 4 since I started, which again, we've done this 5 or 6 times, but really there's only 15 months. But that's just from a security standpoint, that park could use some help right now. I was just up there recently and there's just a lot of cars parked there early in the morning, hanging out.
Yep.
And then park lighting, security, safety improvements. This is another one where I think it's come up here many times. These are also projects that we can take in smaller chunks. So it takes a lot of Joel's team's time to produce and manage a project like Lidle or Ludlow or what Sinton will be. But we could do smaller lighting installations, camera installations, other fixes with some of the other people on his team now that it's staffed up a bit, or even some of the facilities team and Andy's team. So if we were to get that funding, we would be able to activate that pretty quickly. So that moves us to, and we'll let these 2 items on the thing kind of move forward a little bit, but the big colorful document that is available, or that Kelly's about to put up, is a draft of a 3-year forecast. And so again, there shouldn't be any projects on here that we haven't talked about before, but what we've tried to do here a year in, to me being here, is to try to give some specifics to this and say, this is what this is really going to look like, which also just shows the time that Joel's team has to spend for each one of these little projects. And I'll just use it as an example, and I'm going to go through a couple more of these quickly, but so the idea is that this starts to show in terms of time, not just dollars, but in time, both distance and depth, right? Because depth is what limits us oftentimes, is we only have so much staff time and only so much time in the day to meet with community and to meet with contractors and to manage these large projects. But so at the top, you'll see that the color code is blue is for planning. And I have planning broadly here as all of the design, all of the community engagement, all of the working with architects and contractors, all of that stuff. We then have bright yellow for fundraising, and that only appears on a couple of the projects, but that's for projects that will require some help from our friends at the foundation. Then we've got bidding, which, as we know, takes at least 3 months at the city, but sometimes can stretch a little longer. And then we have construction, which is the red. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're actually working on and hard at work on. And then lastly, closeout. And closeout, we're currently experiencing at Ludlow and Lidle as we get trees planted and we wait for road closures and we get furniture delivered. So as you look at it, we can see that Lidle Park is closing out this quarter. and then we will be we'll finish up construction this quarter, and then we'll have that closeout period in Q1 of 24. We'll have the Lido Park sidewalks, which are now delayed to Q1 of 24. And then we've got the Comfort Station, which we're currently working on, and again, we expect that to be completed Q1 of 24. Ludlow, finishing up right now. The garage, we're currently bidding for the second time, but we expect that to be finished again Q1. And the next two are French House and Fleshman Gardens. Those are two projects that you guys approved in September. We're full speed ahead on those. In fact, Craig's going to show me how to do my first wire from Parks Department this afternoon. I now have that authority because I need to. But we're going to wire the funding from the Fleshman Fund that you guys approved in September over today. So we would expect those, in those two projects, we don't necessarily think will take 2 quarters, but I'm kind of putting some, I'm trying to kind of leave out there, like if there's any hiccups or anything like that. But we expect those to be done this spring. And so if you just look at those top like 7-ish lines, you can see that quite a bit of work will be finished and off our table by kind of mid-ish spring, which is pretty exciting. The next up, you've got kind of the major projects that we've been talking a bit. The next 4 are these major kind of the ones that will replace Lytle and Ludlow next year. And that is International Friendship Park. Joel's team has provided final comments back to Waterworks, and hopefully they're bidding that out soon. We expect that to take about a year. And again, these will change. The contractor might come in and be like 6 months, and we'll give you updates. This is going to be a living and breathing document that at any point might be different than the one you saw 3 days before. But again, at any point, hopefully it'll give us a screenshot into about what we have on our plates and about what we reasonably expect. Next up, lot 23. We just talked about that a little bit ago. I've got that being constructed over 5 quarters. And the big reason for that is that we've got 2 outside factors that we've got to take into account, which is 1, the concert schedule there for summer concerts next year, and 2, the purchasing of the cladding and that stone. We've heard are some really long lead times. We're hoping that as the economy settles down and that it's possible that those will be advanced, but we don't know. Next up is biochar. So you just asked about biochar, Mr. President. Joel's constantly telling me that he's heading off to a meeting with Crystal to start drawing stuff. We've got a really good idea of where that facility is going to go. It's actually moved to the eastern part of the property. So it's going to be right next to the boiler that currently boils and the water that heats the greenhouses all year long. But we're going to shorten that distance to where it's just going to be right next door to that. And we're going to put it on that kind of like where there's that field. I don't know if we even walked over there, but there's a field kind of to the east of it. We're going to put that in there, which will still be able to use the circulation, but we'll keep that boiler much closer and we'll be able to build a much more simple building. Originally, we were kind of thinking about reusing that stable building and kind of reusing that. And we were worried about asbestos, but it's still a revitalization of a building, which can add time and complexity to that. So I think we're going to go with a quicker concept to do biochar. And then the Senton, we just talked about Senton. If we were to get that budget exemption, we would get that July 1, which would allow us to start bidding that out. And we could potentially be in construction on that this fall, which would be exciting. And then you see a bunch of smaller projects, right? So the Burnett Woods Dog Park, we're currently in the final stages of the design of that. For my friend Jason in the back, we've got the Mount Airy Area 23 Bicycle Skills Course. Last January, commissioners decided to approve that funding and to fill that funding gap. We've struggled to find time on our schedule as we're trying to get our arms around everything. And also as we staff Joel's team up this year to really dig in on that. But we expect to start conversations with Jason and Cora and the Mount Airy community in early January. I'm sure Jason will be asking for a January 2nd meeting. But we'll be ready. And Joel's already identified who on his team will kind of lead that project. And then Rocky and his team and I will be doing some community engagement around that. And we're hoping to get that under construction by the end of the year. The Alt Park Playground, this is a grant we got from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources a couple budget cycles ago. We actually just got the final signed grant agreement back. Chris and I are meeting with the APAC on Monday to go over some initial playground designs. And that's a $350,000 grant, but $170,000 will go to the playground and $170,000 to trail restoration with Crystal's team. Mount Airy Treehouse we've talked about. We're currently working with procurement to get the designer to design the solutions for us for that. Washington Park we approved and that'll get done quickly. Tom Jones Commons, we're going to make a couple of upgrades of some picnic tables and an accessible spinner. Mr. Jones next year. The Mount Airy Dog Park, so we accepted a $51,000 grant from Mount Airy or from the foundation, the Doris Day Dog Park. We had some great citizens come out last month and tell us they wanted to be involved in that planning. So as we're starting to do planning for the skills force, we'll also be talking to our friends at the APAC and the folks that were here today about what they think about that, get their input on what's right for that. The Eden Park steps, this is one that I've shown to you guys, but we have a donor that's interested in donating to do some beautiful steps, not quite as complex as what's outside behind me, but to do some really beautiful steps that are south of the Playhouse in the Park that would connect it down to Paradrome Street, I believe it is. And then last, Mount Echo Pavilion has some roof issues, and it's got a little bit of funding, about $300,000 set aside for that in a previous budget that we're gonna be working on this year to get that repaired this year. So that's kind of that's just next year. Those are the projects that we think we're gonna tackle next year. Again, this is a little bit like the last year we passed the plan of work in December, which wasn't necessarily binding, but it was this is what we're up to. This is what we expect to get done next year. And so my vision for this is that I would write a similar narrative that we would get to consider in December. It would again be, here's what we think is going to happen with these various projects over the next year. And then this would be kind of the supporting documentation of that. This is where we think things are going to go.
I understand all of it except one.
Okay.
International Friendship Park.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to me why that couldn't have been done under a maintenance agreement. It's putting back what was there.
Hmm.
Why do we have to go into the bidding process, which
the city
makes it years longer, literally years longer?
The city no longer uses maintenance agreements.
Oh, that's the reason.
Correct.
Isn't that a shame?
Yes.
Okay. Answered question. Thank you.
I thought, well, we should be able to control more bidding process, how long bids are outstanding, that sort of thing, right?
Well, there's a set number of weeks that the bids are available for, which we can extend if we want to, similar to like hiring. But the process itself, we've got to, I think it just takes Joel's team time. They have to get approvals through the DEI section to make sure we're getting the right kind of commitments to the city's purchasing policy by the contractors. We've got to develop the bid documents that go out, which are construction documents, but then also kind of filling it into the right forms. And then all that has to get some like approvals along the way from finance, from DEI, from the city manager's office. Okay. So
it's the whole process versus.
We're out of control on this one because it's bid through Greater Cincinnati Waterworks, so we're not in control of that process that we are with every other job that we do.
But I will tell you, we're getting a lot quicker with that, and the relationship with purchasing has been really great. I think on maybe even my first day, which was my first Monday was one of the bi-weekly meetings that Joel had set up. And so that always has me and Jenny and Joel and Craig. And then oftentimes Crystal Courtney, because she has contracts to go through bidding. And we kind of go through every single item with them, and they're helping give us advice and strategies. So it's been really positive, and it feels like it's getting better and better.
Well, Jason, and you've given us a glimpse of this. This is light years. So this is an extremely positive step forward, and it helps us all put things in perspective. What I would suggest is now we've got it. We've got this, and we can mull over it for the next 30 days. And then at the December meeting, where I assume at December is when we actually have to approve what we're submitting to the city.
Correct.
And how about if we use that meeting to be able to give you even more feedback on this?
Can I provide some right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is awesome. I mean, here's what I love, one pager.
Amen.
That said,
a big page.
A big, even if it's a really big page,
I still have to use the glasses. Print's still too small, but
there is nothing on this sheet that I think is unimportant. Everything on here is very important, and we've known all these things are really important. I would suggest for where we are with these projects that we think about future park projects as being future project opportunities, because we're just not there as a commission with what we know to say more about this, to recognize that these are things that are ahead.
Gotcha.
I mean, we do have a reporter here, so let's be clear that that's where we are on it. I have a couple questions on this and maybe just some suggestions, because I still think that, I think this is a great plan in terms of putting on paper what we know we need to do in the parks. And a lot of this represents deferred maintenance that is in our report, and this $25 million here is some portion of that. I'm not sure if that's an actual, that's a factual statement that I made or not, but let me get to where I think it would be really valuable. A couple of things I think we need to understand, and it sort of gets us on this pathway to developing this broader plan, is to identify in these projects, what are those deferred maintenance items that we get a lot of criticism about having, that haunts us every day. So that we can illustrate what our focus is in the deferred maintenance category. And what we've also said consistently as a commission is that, yes, we need to do and address deferred maintenance. We've got a ton of it. We also have real safety issues that pop up when we need to make room for those, which you indicated earlier in the capital budget. But then we also have new initiatives. We're working with the foundation on new initiatives. The park staff has new initiatives that they want to bring to the table. And some of these things are in response to objectives that we may not have definitively stated, but that are kind of taking shape. We have sustainability initiatives like biochar. We have, family amenity initiatives like the skating rink, or like playgrounds, or like dog parks. So I'm not even exactly sure what the categories are, but I think it's really helpful for us to start to wrap our heads around, what do we seek to achieve as a park staff and as a park board together with our partners?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
One more thing before you go, and then I'll cede the floor, is for me, it would also be helpful for you to start to indicate the scale of these projects in this, because some of these are $100,000 projects. Some of these are $15 million projects. And when we get down into future park projects, just thinking about, we can take on a dozen $100,000 projects, maybe not that many over the course of a year, maybe we can, but we can take on one crown, so just to start to frame up, maybe think about a couple of how you would categorize these in terms of scale and effort, so that we can start to sort these and what we really can take on.
Helpful. It will become more complex as but this is
a non-one pager.
correct. Yeah. Step one.
It'll be appendices.
No, that's really helpful, because I could even see a project being, so let's just take Lido Park. Lido Park is definitely deferred maintenance because it existed beforehand, but it also brings a new playground to the park. So that's a new amenity. It brings a new fountain to the park. So that's a new amenity. That playground is a family amenity. So it takes on that. I'm not going to come up with a sustainability thing right off the top of my head, but let's say we were putting solar panels on top of it might achieve multiple of our goals and missions in one project.
That's great.
Where another project like the mountain bike skills course might just be a new initiative, a new initiative that is family friendly, or what I'm saying? So, but yeah, we can.
This, as we've said, this takes us 80% at least. 80% of the way at least. So this is great. And I think Molly is touching on, careful what you ask for. I mean, we've asked for this, it's perfect, but then enhancements to it. Some of the things that we've talked about, along with what Molly has just said, things like identifying in here the neighborhood that is associated with these projects. Looking at, to Molly's point, when the city puts ordinances before council, the city Cincinnati plan, it shows, is it sustainability? Is it neighborhood? Is it what category is this hitting? That is the focus of the board, of the council, that sort of thing. This is, and it's the broader issue that we're sort of touching on, that this is transactional. This is how we implement the vision, or how we implement what we want to do as a park board. So as we are going through here, when we get to a point where we say, as we've talked before, we want to be known as a sustainable park. We want to be known for this. We want to be known for that. What are our commitments to the city that we're going to do? Then how these then fit into that plan. That can come, that's just one column with a C or a whatever it is. But I think that gets us a long way, same way with deferred maintenance. So it's great.
Thank you.
It's great.
One other thing I'd point out is that as you saw in the proposed 2025 infrastructure and rehabilitation budget for that 2.7, we put aside $750,000 for other deferred maintenance projects or emergency maintenance projects. One of the things that I think is probably true for you and has been true for me, and I'm certainly know is true for Joel, is that we've kind of spent this last year finding out what we didn't know. What's broken? All right, let's go fix that. What needs it the most? Let's go fix that. I think we're starting to get past some of those initial like, oh dear, this doesn't work. We got to make sure that works. And we're getting to a point where I think we're gonna be able to be more strategic about that. And so I know Jenny's been working with our facilities team on what are your projects for next year, right? And these might be $20,000 replacing an air conditioner, but we still need to have an understanding of, okay, we're going to spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on deferred maintenance projects. Let's have an insight into what those are. And then Joel's team is also starting to look at, these are kind of your like newspaper projects, right? Like replacing the sidewalk on the outside of a park might not necessarily get that. And so we're going to have a list of those as well. And again, it won't be, I've talked about this in the past too. I feel like what I've heard is that in the past, the capital infrastructure rehabilitation budget set aside a number of dollars for specific projects. And then those projects would or would not get done. It would cost the full amount or less or more. And there wasn't great visibility into what happened. And then that also led to a lot of hanging projects where there would be like a project that just never got done. You know, the roadway on here would just never get done and it would be a 2013 project. What we want to do in the future is approve $750,000 for those projects and then separately show you a list of what the projects we're going to do is. And we can approve that if you want to, but they'll all be lower dollar projects, but it'll at least give you insight into when we come to you each month, we'll say, hey, well, we went from 750 to 720 to 690 to, and we've knocked off, maybe not in order, but we've knocked off 1, 13, 27, and we're slowly working down that list as well. So you have kind of insight into that too. So instead of, you know, on some level, I'm the same way. I'm like, what's Joel got for me this month? What's broken? What do we need to do? We'll have a little, and there'll still be things like that, right? No one can predict the Washington Park sinkhole. Or we might just learn of something that someone's been dealing with for a long time. Some park employees been like, nah, we've always just had this problem where whatever happens in my building, and we might prioritize that. But for the most part, it'll start to give more insight into kind of what's the roadmap for those projects.
So what you're looking for from us is to continue to mull this over and then we'll have this on the agenda in December, correct?
Yep.
Super. Any other comments now or questions on this particular item?
Nothing like it.
Perfect. Okay, let's go to director comments then.
All right, we're right at 11.
Yes.
Feels like we're doing pretty decent. So I'll try to go quickly. Last week, we cleared another section of invasive species from Lars Anderson Park. This is a park on the east side that's got some really dedicated volunteers. This is near Golden and Seneca Street. The clearing of this honeysuckle was funded by the neighbors, and they hired a company, probably not unlike the guy that talked to us earlier today, to do that. Last year, we dealt with some really significant stormwater problems there, which again is a perfect example. I just said there are some things that have been problems for years, and then we found out about them and we had to jump into action. There had been flooding and stormwater issues there for years, and the owners finally got our attention, and we made some real improvements out there. So this has just been a great thing. I just want to thank the operations team and natural resources. Dave Boutel and Garrett Diano were just great in working with the community, and this is just a great example of how that can all come together. Anyway, so you can see we've cleared the trees. Crone Conservatory. So Crone, which I get to brag about all the time, was named by City it got an award for the best exhibit last year. And so Prismatica, which was the light show that was the summer show, which actually kind of lasts into the fall a little bit, summer show, got named the best exhibit last year. So that's just awesome. Speaking of Crone, the tree lighting is November 30th. I unfortunately will be on vacation, but I hope you all get a chance to make it to it. I know we're going to have city manager's going to be there along with some department directors. We've invited the entire department director team. We've invited the mayor and his staff and all the council staff. Hope you have a really good turnout, and there'll be a lot of volunteers there. Sad I'm going to miss it because it was I'd never been to it before, and it was really fun last year to see. And this year, we are adding one of the natural buildings. So there will be the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center has been added to the collection of amazing buildings in there, which are just unbelievable to look at near the train station.
So cool.
The annual report's coming up. We're going to release the annual report every year around Thanksgiving. Rocky and his team have done a great job of getting it together. I can't wait to show it to you guys. We've switched the format a little bit this year to make it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more modern, a little bit less PDF that you print out and staple. And they've done a really great job. That was a fun one where we sat down and they were like, what do you think? And I gave a half idea and they were like, don't say anything else. And then they went off and they've made it just absolutely awesome. And as a highlight, last year we planted 1,675 trees. So just another year of amazing tree planting. Let's see. So volunteers, we've had an unbelievable year of volunteers. As always, Crystal Johnson-Roberts and her team have just done a great job. Over almost 5,000 people volunteered for us last year, and they contributed over 41,000 hours of volunteering. So that team that was in here earlier today were a couple examples of that, but just so many parks and so many green spaces are benefiting from that kind of volunteer work. It's just unbelievable. And in fact, just Tuesday, along with Mad Tree and the Parks Foundation and Mane Inc. and Ohio River Valley, Groundwork Ohio River Valley. We planted 150 trees in Bond Hill, which is just really great. It's one of our climate safe neighborhoods. It's just a great partnership. And we've got more. Tomorrow, 50 Moeller students are planting trees in Alms Park. Avon Woods on this Saturday and also Saturday, December 9th are getting volunteers. French Park, probably our friend here today is going to be our friend
Philip Schaefer.
Philip, yep, there you go. Our friend Philip will be out in French Park 31 days a year. They mobilize out there. It's just amazing. Mount Airy's having a clearing, probably our other friend today on December 3rd. California Woods on December 16th. So there's just all kinds of volunteer opportunities. It's truly unbelievable. This Saturday, Explore Nature with one of our naturalist historians, Michael George, is leading the Burnet Woods History Walk as part of our nature encounters to learn about the history of Burnet Woods at Trailside Nature Center. The CAC Art Play Hike is on December 6th at 10:30 in Laguedo Woods. Participants can join the Contemporary Arts Center in Cincinnati Parks for some creative outdoor fun, nature activities, family-friendly yoga, and an in-person project with a local artist. And we're once again proud to participate in the annual Audubon Christmas Bird Contest on Saturday, December 23rd and December 30th. More details are on the website. Sounds fascinating.
It's the bird count, right?
I'm trying to go fast. We're once again happy to participate in the annual Audubon Christmas Bird Count on Saturday, the 23rd and Saturday, December 23rd and Saturday, December 30th. So, and then lastly, did you have the photo? It is kind of fun. There's one last, I'll let Kelly pull it up, but just yesterday, first thing in the morning, I got this, which is the new sign at Ludlow. So it's just, so
I haven't seen it.
I hadn't either.
So yeah, that just got in and just look at that crisp sunny morning. You can see the sun coming up in the east, but just such a fun project.
Great.
So a good way to end.
You know, for our minutes, if we would, a couple of things that you mentioned. I think it's noteworthy to congratulate the Crone Conservatory staff on that recognition. And then I think it's great that they've identified and including the Underground Railroad Museum as part of the Crone show this summer. I mean, this Christmas.
And I guess one last announcement is for everyone listening at home or here to remember that next month, we're going to meet on the second Thursday of the month in order to separate ourselves. Christmas comes early this year because on a Monday.
Yep.
Strange as that may be, it comes early this year. And so I'm already sweating my Christmas shopping. But we're going to have.
Yes,
correct.
Yes.
Well, there you go. We got a whole week in November to shop.
And Black Friday starts 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. 2 months, I think, usually.
But we'll be meeting December 14th at 9 a.m. In order to give everybody plenty of time for Christmas travel and time with family and friends.
Super. We will be doing a short executive session, but before that, this is open discussion for commissioners. Are there any comments, discussion that you would like to add?
I've had enough comments.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Super. There was just note, there was a great article that I just saw from WGUC about water. There've been a number, either with radio or our illustrious friends at the Inquirer have been doing some nice articles about the Cincinnati Park, so it's great.
Jim.
Yes.
I'd just like to
Yeah.
thank Jason for coming last night to our building. We had a presentation on the park and Jason was there. We had a large contingency in the audience. And he did a great job explaining how the process of construction and what people can expect and answered a lot of questions. There were quite a few questions and he had all the answers. And
All the
so
answers.
it went really well and I'd just like to thank him for that.
Great.
Excellent.
Jason, do you want to tell us about these gifts we've received?
Yeah, so
Very nice.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
think I might actually invite Jen Spicer up to tell us about these.
Thank you, Jason. So this is the painting from Jim Ethler. So Greg Hardman of Moorline Locker House, who's a good friend to Parks and the Foundation, came to us early this summer and said that this was his third time. He wanted to do a painting of scale. Obviously, there's some major assets missing. We noticed, and that was one of our questions, but otherwise, we were extremely grateful that he came to us. He was able to add Kathy's garden, Jim Ethler, the painter, and so within this painting, you'll see that, and some other features. So of course, he didn't include everything, but he included Castellini Esplanade, some other pieces. And then this is the official sign that was released formally yesterday. It was a fundraising opportunity for us, and the painting was a live auction. And so we've got some donations for that as well. And our Oak Society members, which many of you are a part of, we're all included to be united and get a free sign. So you can take that to the Moorline Lager House because you all seem like beer drinkers. And then you can you can fill it up. So thanks.
No, thank you. Thank you. Super. Any other comments? Hearing none, we will be going into executive session. We only have one topic that we'll be discussing. I believe we will come out of executive session and maybe take one action, but that is it. So with that, I am going to move that we adjourn into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22 parentheses G, to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
And this, we have to have a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. So with that, we will